What if everyone you trusted was playing a different game? What if the people closest to you were the architects of your slowest death? What if your inability to recognize a true ally from a beautiful enemy is the single reason you remain stuck while others ascend? 5 centuries ago, Machiavelli warned that most men cannot distinguish between the advisor who serves them and the flatterer who destroys them. That warning was not for princes alone. It was for you. You are about to learn the 7 signs that someone is truly aligned with your destiny, and the brutal reality that most people in your circle right now are not. This will hurt, but clarity always does. You have made a catastrophic mistake. You have permitted the wrong individuals in the inner sanctum of your existence. You have revealed your vision to parasites who smile while calculating how to extract value from your vulnerability. You have offered your loyalty to people who perceived you as nothing more than a resource to be consumed, a stepping stone to be used and discarded, a temporary convenience, and because of this fundamental error in selection, you have hemorrhaged potential. You have invested years constructing elaborate structures on foundations of sand, wondering why everything keeps collapsing, blaming yourself for structural failures that were never about your effort, thinking you simply have not loved deeply enough or given generously enough. Stop. The problem is not the magnitude of your commitment. The problem is the quality of your selection process. You have been systematically conditioned to believe that human connection operates like a lottery, that friendship or romantic love simply materializes if you are kind enough, available enough, forgiving enough. Niccolò Machiavelli would find this belief absurd. He understood with clinical precision that in the game of power, and make no mistake, life is fundamentally a sophisticated game of power dynamics. Alliances are never random accidents. They are architectural necessities, strategic constructions built with intention. If someone is genuinely aligned with your trajectory, it does not mean the universe intervened on your behalf. It means that psychological operating system aligns with your ambition. It means that shadow can coexist with yours without attempting to consume it. It means they are not merely a companion, lover, or friend. They are a force multiplier, someone who amplifies your capability rather than diminishing it through constant demand. But how do you identify these rare individuals in a world populated by masterful actors? How do you distinguish between someone who genuinely desires your success and someone who desires what your success can provide them? Machiavelli did not compose romantic poetry about soulmates or destiny. He wrote clinical, brutal observation about allies, about the exceptional few who can stand beside a person of power without constantly plotting to seize that power for themselves. Today, we are going to systematically dismantle the romanticized mythology you have been fed about human connection. We are going to examine the cold, observable sign that someone is actually constructed psychologically to endure the weight of walking beside you. I am going to show you how to identify the individuals who are biologically and strategically wired to rise with you rather than feed parasitically off your ascent. But I must warn you now with absolute clarity. 1. You develop the capacity to perceive these signs accurately. You will realize how profoundly vacant your current social circle actually is. You may find yourself standing in complete solitude, and that isolation is precisely where your transformation must begin. Most people select their romantic partners and close friends based entirely on emotional responses, based on the dopamine rush of initial attraction, based on how pleasant someone makes them feel in fleeting moments. This is a fatal strategic error with compounding consequences. Feelings are inherently unstable and fluctuating. Dopamine fades with mathematical predictability. If you construct the architecture of your life on the foundation of emotional highs and pleasant sensations, you are building on water. You are creating something that will disperse the instant genuine pressure arrives. Machiavelli argued with supporting evidence that the only sustainable bond between two individuals is one constructed on mutual utility and earned respect. Now, the modern conditioned mind recoils instinctively at the word utility. We have been trained through media and cultural programming to perceive it as cold, transactional, exploitative. But examine this concept more carefully and honestly. If a person contributes nothing of genuine substance to your life, no emotional stability, no intellectual challenge, no strategic support, no authentic care for your development, why are they occupying valuable space in your inner circle? They are dead weight, ballast pulling you steadily toward the ocean floor. When we say samo, ne is meant for you in the Machiavellian strategic sense. We mean they possess what he termed virtue, capability, strength, effectiveness, the capacity to face the unpredictable chaos of fortune without crumbling into uselessness. If you are a person of high caliber, or if you are actively climbing toward that elevated standard, You cannot afford to be tethered to the psychologically fragile. You require an equal, a second in command, a strategic ally who operates at your frequency and complements your natural weaknesses with their corresponding strengths. The signs of such an individual are subtle, they are quiet, they manifest in patterns of behavior, not in dramatic declarations, and these signs never appear in someone who is secretly engineering your downfall. Let us examine them with surgical precision. The mirror of brutal truth. Sign 1, the death of flattery and the emergence of the truth mirror. The first unmistakable sign that someone is genuinely aligned with your path is that they categorically refuse to worship you. This directly contradicts what your ego desperately craves. Your ego hungers for adoration. It desires the person who constantly affirms that you are right, you are brilliant, you are flawless. That steady stream of validation feels remarkably like love. It creates a pleasant warmth that mimics authentic connection. It is neither love nor connection. It is manipulation disguised as devotion. Machiavelli wrote with absolute clarity on this subject. There is no other way to guard yourself against flattery than by making men understand that telling you the truth will not offend you. The sycophant, the strategic user, the carefully positioned counterfeit ally, they will always agree with everything you say. They will enthusiastically validate your worst ideas, your most destructive impulses, your least examined assumptions. Why? Because their primary objective is to keep you comfortable, compliant, and dependent on their presence to maintain the flow of whatever resources you provide. Status, connections, money, attention, emotional labor. They operate under a simple, fear-based calculation. If they challenge you, you might sever the relationship. If they disagree with you, the resource stream might stop. Their agreement is not authentic alignment. It is a tax they pay to remain in proximity to what you offer, but the person genuinely meant for you operates from an entirely different framework. They respect you too profoundly to insult you with comfortable lies. They will be the one to look directly into your eyes without flinching and state with calm precision that you are incorrect, that you are being driven by emotion rather than logic, that you are wasting your potential on distractions that provide comfort but produce no results. Dishonesty creates a sharp sting. It feels like an attack on your competence. Your ego interprets it as betrayal or disrespect. But notice the critical difference that separates enemy from ally. An enemy attacks you to diminish your position in the social hierarchy, to lower your status, so they can rise comparatively. Their criticism is designed to make you smaller. A true ally challenges you to elevate your standards, to force you into becoming the version of yourself you publicly claim you want to be. Their criticism is designed to make you larger, sharper, more effective. When someone is genuinely aligned with your long-term success, they function as a precision mirror, not a distorted funhouse mirror that makes you appear more impressive than reality support, but a flawless, unforgiving reflective surface that reveals the imperfection on your face, so you can correct it before walking into consequential situations. They protect your reputation by checking your behavior in private. They save you from public humiliation. Why providing private correction? Consider carefully the people occupying space in your life currently. Who are the individuals who not enthusiastically everything you propose? Who validates every decision without question? Who agrees with your conclusions before you have finished explaining your reasoning? Dismiss them mentally, categorize them as dangerous. They will watch you walk directly off a cliff simply to avoid the discomfort of an awkward conversation. They will permit you to destroy yourself because your destruction costs them nothing. Now consider the person who argues with you, not from ego or malice, not from a desire to dominate the conversation, but from logic and genuine investment in your outcome. The person who forces you to support your arguments with evidence, who demands that you explain the reasoning behind your assumptions, who refuses to let you settle for explanation. That collapse under basic scrutiny, that friction you experience in those interactions, is not incompatibility. That is iron sharpening iron. That is the uncomfortable but necessary process of refinement. If you find someone who remains calm and focused when you become angry during their delivery of hard truths, guard that relationship with extreme care, because it reveals that they value accuracy and your long-term success more than they value your temporary emotional approval. And in a world systematically constructed on comfortable lies and social pleasantries, that commitment to truth is the most valuable commodity in existence. The flatterers everywhere, they are cheap, abundant, and easy to acquire. The truth-teller is rare and worth more than any amount of gold or social status. Most people collect flatterers because flatterers feel good, but strategic individuals collect truth-tellers because truth-tellers produce results. The question you must ask yourself is simple. Do you want to feel good or do you want to become great? because you rarely get both simultaneously. The person who makes you feel constantly comfortable is the person keeping you precisely where you are. The person who makes you occasionally uncomfortable is the person pushing you toward where you need to be. Machiavelli observed that princes surrounded by flatterers eventually lose touch with reality. They begin believing their own propaganda. They make decisions based on distorted information, and they fall suddenly and completely, wondering how they failed to see the obvious signs of collapse. The signs were always there, but everyone around them was too invested in maintaining pleasant feelings to deliver unpleasant facts. Do not be that prince. Do not construct your inner circle from people who tell you what you want to hear. Construct it from people who tell you what you need to know, even when, especially when, that knowledge bruises your ego. Your ego will recover, but your wasted years will not. The sanctuary of shadow. Sign 2. They endure your shadow and provide sanctuary in darkness. Every human being maintains a carefully constructed public face. The mask, the meticulously crafted persona. You wear it at work. You wear it in social situations. You wear it on dates. You wear it to navigate the world without revealing vulnerability that could be weaponized against you. It is the competent, composed, fully in control version of you, the smiling professional who has everything figured out. Most people only develop affection for your mask. They love the version of you that provides value to their life, that entertains them, that makes them look good by association, that reflects well on their judgment for selecting you. But beneath that carefully maintained exterior lies something else entirely: the shadow, the insecurities you actively hide from the world, the ancient psychological wounds that never fully healed, the bizarre intrusive thoughts that cross your mind, the moments of profound weakness where you want to abandon everything you have built, the rage you suppress, the fear you deny, the coldness you mask with warmth. Here is the test that reveals everything about the authenticity of a connection. Drop the mask completely. Stop performing. Show them the unedited shadow. What happens next tells you everything you need to know. The wrong people will recoil immediately and instinctively. They will say you are being too intense, too much, too negative. Why are you acting like this? They will attempt to shame you back into the acceptor box because your authentic darkness inconveniences them. It disrupts the comfortable fantasy they constructed. They developed feelings for the performance, not the performer. They fell in love with the image you projected, not the complex human being generating that image. When the image cracks and the messy reality emerges, their interest evaporates like water on hot stone, but the person genuinely meant for you does not flinch. They do not retreat. Machiavelli understood with clinical precision that human nature is inherently flawed, fickle, contradictory, prone to darkness and irrational impulses. A strategic partner comprehends this at a fundamental level. They are not searching for a perfect saint to place on a pedestal. They are searching for a flawed, complex human being they can fight beside, someone whose darkness they can understand because they recognize it in themselves. When you reveal your shadow to them, your anger, your fear, your moments of shocking coldness, your intrusive thoughts, they do not run. They observe carefully. They step closer rather than backing away. They examine your demons with recognition and acceptance. They look at the monster inside you and acknowledge it with a subtle nod that communicates clearly, I recognize these. I carry similar ones. I am not afraid of what I see because I understand it. This is what I call therapeutic darkness, the safety found, not on the bright balcony where everything is visible and judged, but in the basement. Where shadows are accepted as part of the architecture. If you can sit in a quiet room with someone and tell them your darkest, most intrusive thought, the kind of thought that would get you socially destroyed or clinically diagnosed if spoken publicly, and they simply look at you with calm understanding rather than shock or judgment, you have found something extraordinarily rare. You have found a sanctuary, a place where you can exist without the exhausting performance. Do not mistake this dynamic for trauma bonding. Trauma bonding is when two people use each other's pain as an excuse to remain stuck in dysfunction. It is mutual enabling disguise as deep connection. This is different. This is shadow integration. This is the ability to say clearly and without fear, I see the monster that lives inside you, and I am not afraid of it because I understand how to help you aim that monster at our shared enemies rather than at each other. If they attempt to fix you immediately upon seeing your shadow, they are operating from arrogance. They believe they are psychologically superior to you. If they judge you for the content of your shadow, they are revealing their own weakness, their inability to accept the full spectrum of human psychology. But if they accept the shadow, acknowledge it without flinching, help you channel its energy productively, that is not just friendship or romance, that is a strategic alliance, that is power. Most relationships exist entirely on the surf. Pleasant conversations about pleasant topics. carefully curated sharing of acceptable emotions, a constant performance of being fine, being good, being stable. These relationships feel comfortable but remain fundamentally shallow. They cannot survive real pressure because they were never tested against real darkness. The moment genuine crisis arrives, the moment mask slips and the shadow emerges, these surface relationships dissolve instantly because they were never built to handle reality. They were built to handle the performance of reality, but the relationship that can survive shadow exposure becomes unbreakable because it has been tested against the worst you contain, and it did not break. Machiavelli observed that the strongest alliances are formed not during celebration, but during crisis, not when everything is easy, but when everything is falling apart. Because crisis reveals character, it strips away the performance and exposes the raw material underneath. If someone can see you at your absolute worst, your most broken, your most monstrous, and chooses to remain beside you, that is not chance. That is not obligation. That is recognition of shared humanity. The person meant for you understand that you are not your best day, and you are not your worst day. You are the full spectrum, and they accept the entirety of that spectrum, because they require the same acceptance for themselves. This creates a bond that transcends normal social connection. It creates what ancient warriors called a shield wall, a formation where each person protects the vulnerabilities of the person beside them. You cannot form a shield wall with someone who has never seen you vulnerable. You can only form it with someone who has seen you wounded and chose to cover your exposed flank rather than exploit it. Most people spend their entire lives searching for someone who loves their highlight reel. The strategic individual searches for someone who can endure their behind-the-scenes footage, the breakdowns, the doubts, the moments of weakness. If you find someone who sees all of that and says calmly, "I am still here," you have found something more valuable than romantic love. You have found operational trust. And operational trust is the foundation of every alliance that changes the world. Operational synchronization. 3. The silence is heavy with unspoken understanding. Language is a remarkably low bandwidth form of communication. It is clumsy, imprecise, easily misunderstood, easily manipulated, easily faked. The deepest connections between human beings do not require constant verbal narration. They operate on a frequency beneath language. Observe carefully the dynamic you experience with the various people in your life. With most individuals, there exists a frantic, almost desperate need to fill every silence. You talk about the weather, the news, gossip, trivial observation, anything to avoid the crushing weight of the quiet. Why does this compulsion exist? Because the silence reveals the absence of genuine connection. It exposes the void. When two strangers or acquaintances sit together in silence, the anxiety becomes palpable. The air feels thick. Time moves slowly. Both parties experience discomfort that drives them to manufacture meaningless conversations simply to escape the emptiness. But when you are with the person genuinely meant for you, the silence operates entirely differently. It is not empty. It is heavy, dense, with information, filled with mutual presence. You are in a room together. You are working on separate projects. They are reading. You are writing. No words are spoken for 2 hours. Yet you feel completely connected. You feel their presence like a warm, steady weight. In the back of your awareness, you are operating in parallel rather than in conversation. This is what I call operational synchronization. Machiavelli observed that the most effective military units move as a single organism. They do not require the general to scream every individual instruction. They understand the mission. They know the rhythm. They anticipate each other. As movements through shared experience and mutual calibration in a romantic relationship or a deep friendship. This manifests as nonverbal flow. You catch their eyes across a crowded room, and you know exactly what they are thinking. You know they are bored with the conversation happening around them. You know they have identified a threat or an opportunity that others have missed. You know they are ready to leave. A single micro-expression on their face communicates an entire paragraph of information to you. This capacity cannot be taught through instruction. It cannot be forced through effort or practice. It is a biological resonance, a matching of frequencies that either exists naturally or does not exist at all. If you find yourself constantly explaining your feelings, your motivations, or your humor to someone, they are not your person. You are speaking different languages. You are operating on incompatible systems. Your joke requires a 10-minute explanation for them to understand why it was funny. Your emotional state requires extensive verbal unpacking for them to comprehend what you are experiencing. Your decision-making process seems mysterious or irrational to them. This is not a minor incompatibility. This is a fundamental mismatch. The right person downloads your state of mind almost instantly. They read your emotional weather without needing a forecast. They understand the logic of your decisions even when those decisions appear counterintuitive to others. Think about the strategic efficiency of this capacity. In a crisis situation, you do not have time for lengthy explanations. You do not have the luxury of discussing feelings and motivations. You need someone who moves when you move. Someone who hands you the tool before you verbalize the need for it. Someone who covers your blind spot without requiring explicit instruction. Someone who knows when to speak, and when silence serves better. This is not merely chemistry or compatibility. This is telepathy born of survival necessity. This is the bond that forms between people who have been tested together under pressure. Machiavelli would recognize this as the difference between mercenaries and a standing army of loyal soldiers. Mercenaries require constant instruction and supervision. They do not understand the broader mission. They execute only the specific tasks they are paid to perform. But loyal soldiers who have trained together, who understand the commander's mind, who share a common purpose, they operate with devastating effectiveness because half the communication happens below the conscious level. Your personal life, this synchronization transforms everything. You can communicate entire strategies with a glance. You can coordinate complex social navigation without speaking. You can support each other's objectives seamlessly because you understand what those objectives are without needing them spelled out. The wrong person requires a user manual. Every interaction needs clear verbal instruction. Every emotional need must be explicitly stated. Every expectation must be negotiated and renegotiated. This is exhausting. It turns the relationship into a constant translation project. But the right person operates intuitively within your system. They learn your pattern. They recognize your tells. They know when you need space and when you need proximity. They understand when you need to talk and when you need to sit in share silence. Most importantly, the silence with them is not absence, it is presence, active, engaged, connected presence that requires no words. You can sit together for an entire evening, eat, absorbed in separate activities, and feel more connected than you do during hours of conversation with someone else. This is the marker. If the silence feels heavy in a good way, if it feels full rather than empty, if you feel their energy even when no words are being exchanged, you have found operational synchronization. Guard it because it is rare. Most people will never experience this in their entire lives. They will spend decades in relationships where they feel fundamentally alone, even when the other person is in the same room, where conversation feels like work, where connection requires constant effort. But when you find someone with whom the silence speaks volumes, when you find someone whose presence alone is communication, you have located something that cannot be replicated or replaced. You have found your second in command, your operational partner, the person who can stand beside you in the war that is life and know exactly what you need without you having to explain it. Machiavelli understood that the prince's most valuable asset is not his wealth or his title. It is the advisor who understands his mind so completely that instruction becomes nearly unnecessary. In your life, this translates directly. The most valuable person is not the one who agrees with everything you say. It is the one who understands what you mean even when you say nothing at all. It is as if their belief in you acts as a fuel source that amplifies your natural capacity. This happens because there is zero friction in the interaction. You do not have to perform or manage their emotions. You do not have to walk on eggshells or filter your thoughts. You do not have to spend energy managing the interaction itself. The energy you would normally waste on social management is freed up to be used on building your empire. Pay attention to your body. Your body knows before your conscious mind does. If your stomach tightens when their name appears on your phone screen, that is your instinct screaming predator. If your shoulders drop, your breath deepens, and your mind clears when they are around, that is your instinct saying safety, saying base, saying home. In the Machiavellian worldview, you cannot conquer the external world if you are fighting a constant war in your own home. You need your private life to be boring, stable, predictable, so your public life can be exciting and dynamic. You need your inner circle to be a source of rest, not a source of drama. If they bring drama, if they thrive on chaos, if every week there is a new crisis, cut the cord immediately. They are addicted to cortisol and they will use you as their dealer. The right person brings peace. Not the boring piece of stagnation, but the active piece of a well-oiled machine. Sign 5. Strategic loyalty and the fortress concept. Loyalty is a word casually thrown around by people who have never been genuinely tested. Everyone claims loyalty when circumstances are favorable. Everyone is loyal when you are winning, when you are buying the drinks, when association with you benefits them. Machiavelli was deeply cynical about loyalty for excellent reasons. He observed that men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous. He knew that most people will sell you out the moment the price is right or the pressure becomes too intense. So how do you identify real loyalty? Real loyalty is not blind obedience. Real loyalty is shared risk. The person meant for you is the one who stays when the ship is taking on water, not because they are stupid or lack other options, but because they have placed their bet on you. They have tied their fate to yours. This is the fortress concept. When the world attacks you, do they open the gate for the enemy, or do they pour boiling oil on them from the walls? Watch carefully how they speak about you when you are not present in the room. You will never know this with absolute certainty, but you can infer it by observing how they speak to you about others. Do they gossip about their supposed best friends to you? If they do, rest assured they are gossiping about you to them. The strategic ally keeps your secrets locked in a vault. They defend your name even when it is unpopular to do so, but here is the critical nuance that separates true allies from sycophants. They defend you in public and correct you in private. If someone agrees with your enemies in public just to keep the peace, they are a coward. They are hedging their bets. They are preparing for your potential downfall so they can survive it. The person meant for you stands back to back with you. They understand that an attack on you is an attack on the unit. This is tribal. This is primal. It is us against the world. If you do not feel that us against the world energy, you do not have a partner. You have a roommate, an acquaintance, a spy. Sign 6. They provoke your ambition and serve as catalysts. There are people who are comfortable with your mediocrity. In fact, they actively prefer it. If you stay average, you do not threaten them. If you stay broke, you do not make them feel inadequate about their own financial situation. If you stay out of shape, they do not have to confront their own physical decline. These people will subtly sabotage your growth. They will say things like, "Why are you working so hard? You should relax. You have changed. Who do you think you are?" This is crab bucket mentality. The person genuinely meant for you is almost terrified of your wasted potential. They see what you could become, and they are impatient for you to become it. They do not provoke you out of cruelty or competition. They provoke you out of vision. They are the catalyst. When you tell them a small idea, they ask why not bigger when you want to quit. They remind you of who you claimed you wanted to be. When you win, they celebrate genuinely, but then they ask what is next. This can be exhausting if you are weak or comfortable with mediocrity. But if you are an outlier, if you are a Machiavellian builder, this is oxygen. They are not a passive spectator in your life. They are an active participant in your evolution. They challenge your intellect. They send you books and articles. They send you opportunity. They push you into rooms you did not think you belonged in. Why? Because they understand that your rise is their rise. Machiavelli wrote that a prince who is not wise himself cannot be wisely counseled. This means you need people around you who are wise enough and bold enough to push you beyond your comfort zone. If you are the smartest, strongest, most ambitious person in your room, you are in the wrong room. The person meant for you should intimidate you just slightly. Their excellence should create a gentle pressure to elevate yourself. If you look at your partner or your best friend and you do not feel any pressure to level up, you have settled. You have chosen comfort over conquest. Sign 7. The absence of microaggression and the jealousy test. Watch their eyes closely when you win. This is perhaps the most dangerous test of all because it reveals the secret envy that rots most relationships from the inside out. When you announce a victory, a promotion, a new business launch, a physical transformation, most people will say the correct words. Congratulations, wow, that is amazing. I'm so happy for you. But look at the micro-expressions. Is there a flash of tightness in the jaw? Do they look down before they look up? Is there a split second of coldness before the smile is plastered on? Do they immediately pivot the conversation back to themselves? These are microaggressions, tiny daggers, subconscious signals that your eyes make them feel diminished. They do not want you to fail catastrophically, but they want you to stay just slightly below them in the hierarchy. They want you to remain the sidekick, not the hero. The person meant for you does not compete with you. Why? Because they are secure in their own power. They operate from a mindset of abundance, not scarcity. They understand that your victory does not steal from their plate. When you win, the right person feels a surge of genuine adrenaline as if they won. This is a psychological concept called compersion, the opposite of jealousy. the ability to derive authentic pleasure from the success of an ally. If you tell them you just made a massive breakthrough, their eyes should light up immediately. They should lean in. They should want to know every detail, not to steal your methods, but to savor the victory with you. If you feel like you have to dim your light around someone to avoid making them uncomfortable, you are in the presence of an enemy. You are in the presence of a parasite who feeds on your mediocrity. The ally meant for you pushes you into the spotlight because they know that when the king rises, the entire kingdom rises. Sign 8. The law of reciprocity and the balanced ledger. Every relationship is a transaction. I do not care how romantic you want to be about it. I do not care about the concept of unconditional love. Unconditional love is for infants and dogs. Adult relationships are conditional. They depend on mutual value exchange. The final sign that someone is meant for you is that the ledger balances itself without you having to ask or demand. With the wrong people, you are always the initiator. You send the first text. You plan the date. You buy the gift. You ask how are you. You carry the emotional load. If you stopped rowing, the boat would stop moving entirely. This creates a debt in the relationship. You start to feel resentful. You start keeping score. I did this for them. Why will they not do this for me? When the person is right, the scorekeeping disappears naturally. Why? Because the reciprocity is fluid and organic. One week you might carry 80% of the load because they are in a crisis. The next week they carry 80% because you are sick. You do not need a spreadsheet to track it because you trust their intent fundamentally. You know that they are not trying to extract value from you. They are trying to contribute value to the unit. This is the law of equivalent exchange. If you are always the one reaching out, stop. Just stop completely. See what happens. If silence follows, you have your answer. The relationship was held together by your effort alone. It was artificial, but if they notice the silence and fill it, if they come to you, that is the sign of a balanced equation. The person meant for you respects your time and resources as much as they respect their own. They do not play games with your attention. They value the connection, so they maintain the connection. It is that simple. Now let us assume you have found this person. You have spotted the signs. They challenge you. They protect your shadow. They balance the ledger. How do you keep them? Most people ruin these rare connections because they become lazy. They think we are meant for each other, so I do not need to try anymore. Wrong. Entropy is the law of the universe. Disorder increases over time. Relationships decay if they are not actively maintained. If you want to keep a high-value ally, you must use Machiavellian strategy to bind them to you. You do not want them to just like you. You want them to be unable to afford losing you. Here is how you secure the alliance. 1. Become irreplaceable through specific utility. Machiavelli wrote that men love at their own pleasure and fear at the pleasure of the prince. You cannot control if they love you. Love is fickle and emotion-based, but you can control how much they need you. You must become a source of value that they cannot find anywhere else. This is not about money, it is about specific, irreplaceable utility. Are you the only person who truly understands their complex mind? Are you the only person who can calm them down when they panic? Are you the one who organizes their chaotic thoughts into actionable strategy? If you are just nice, you are replaceable. There are millions of nice people, but if you are the architect of their peace or the strategist of their ambition, you become irreplaceable. 2. Create a third entity through shared mission. Two people looking at each other will eventually become bored. Two people looking in the same direction can walk together forever. The strongest bonds are not purely emotional, they are teleological, based on shared purpose. You need a third entity. You plus them equals the relationship, but you plus them plus the mission equals the empire. What are you building together? It could be a family, a business, a philosophy, a literal house. If there is no shared project, the relationship becomes stagnant. The person meant for you wants to build. Give them a blueprint. Where you have a shared mission, minor arguments do not matter. You do not break up over dirty dishes when you are conquering a city together. The mission anchors the bond. 3. Maintain the edge through continuous improvement. This is controversial, but it is true. A relationship without a tiny element of healthy tension is a dead relationship. I am not talking about fear of abuse. I am talking about the fear of loss. If they are 100% certain that you will never leave no matter how badly they treat you, they will eventually treat you badly. It is human nature. We take for granted what is guaranteed. You must maintain the edge. You must continue to improve yourself. You must stay in shape. You must have a life outside of them. They need to look at you and think, if I mess this up, someone else will recognize the value I am squandering. This keeps desire alive. It keeps respect high. Never let yourself become a piece of furniture in their life. Remain a prize that must be earned every single day. Now we must turn the mirror around. If the perfect Machiavellian partner walked into your life today, would they recognize you as an equal? Or would they see a child? Would they see someone who is emotionally reactive? Would they see someone who is lazy and undisciplined? Would they see someone drowning in debt and drama? You attract what you are, not what you want. If you want a king, you cannot be a court jester. If you want a queen, you cannot be a peasant. The reason you have not found them yet might not be because they do not exist. It might be because you are invisible to them. High-value people have filter. They ignore the noise. They ignore the complainers. They ignore the victims. If you are constantly broadcasting weakness, you are telling the world, I am a victim. The person meant for you is looking for a victor. So before you go hunting for this mythical connection, you must build the fortress within yourself. You must kill your own neediness. You must master your own emotions. You must build your own mission. When you do that, a strange thing happens. You stop chasing, and when you stop chasing, you start attracting. The signs I listed, you must embody them first. You must stop flattering people. You must endure their shadow. You must be the battery charger. You must be the vault. Be the person you are looking for. And then inevitably, undeniably, they will appear, not by magic, but by the law of resonance. Finding the person meant for you is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of the war. Life is difficult. It is tragic. It is unfair. Walking through it alone is possible. Machiavelli spent his final years in exile alone with his books. But it is a cold existence. To find another human consciousness that vibrates at your frequency is the greatest strategic advantage you can possess. It turns a survival situation into a thriving empire. But remember this final warning. These people are rare. They are outliers. You might only meet 2 or 3 in your entire lifetime. If you have one, do not let your ego destroy the connection. Do not let your pettiness burn the bridge. Do not let your laziness rot the foundation. Guard that alliance with your life, because outside the wall, as of that fortress, it is a wilderness of ghosts and actors. If you are alone right now, do not despair. Use the solitude, sharpen your mind, build your value, become so formidable that when you finally cross paths with them, they have no choice but to stop and say, there you are, I have been looking for you. The signs will appear, the silence will speak, the empire will rise. But only if you are awake enough to see it.